Hey everybody, welcome to the VR Game Nights. It's Sir Gray here with my co-host Sir Aga, and we're going to talk about all of the VR news that happened this week, but specifically, probably the biggest news is the reveal of some of the specs of the Vive Cosmos. And we've been waiting for this, right? This is the last major announced headset that we haven't known anything about. I mean, in any day now, the indexes are going to start arriving on people's doorsteps, and some people have been holding off, saying, "Hey, maybe I want something in between a Rift S and a Valve Index." So, with that said, I was going to say that I have a cold, so I will be muting myself occasionally so I can cough, and I apologize. But um, with that said, I also want to start the show by thanking Sir Aga for inviting me on E2KG last night. I get to be a guest host on their 100th episode. So a link to that episode will be the first link in the show notes below. But with that said, let's switch over and talk about now this kind of rolled out slowly. So the first thing that happened was that somebody said that they thought it was going to be have a $900 price tag. And so Vive came out and they said no. HTC came out and said no, it's not a $900 unit. So that was the first thing that happened over the last few days. And then the second thing that happened was, let's see if I can bring this up. You can see here it has a new look. So they leaked some pictures, or they didn't leak it. They published some pictures of the new redesigned Cosmos. And you'll notice a couple of big things here. The first thing you're going to notice is the front is kind of perforated, right? There's kind of holes in it. It's kind of weird looking. But the other thing you're going to notice is there's two more cameras. They had four, but then the Rift S had five. So they're upping it and going to six cameras. So let's see if we can take another look at this. What do you think about that, Sir Aga?
Well, the most interesting thing is that the new two cameras are directly in the faceplate, right over roughly where your eyes would be, leading to some speculation of potential additional functionality. This is a thing that will be great when we talk about manually initiating a see-through mode. Directly in the headset. That would be huge, and lining those cameras up so that they maintain the same relative position as your actual eyesight target line. Because of course the problem with the other headsets are they come from cameras that aren't actually located where your eyes are, and so the perspective can potentially come off with a little bit of parallax that could cause a problem if you were actually trying to conduct mixed reality activities that mapped one-to-one to a virtual environment. So
Yeah, I could definitely tell you the Quest. It definitely has that issue. It's not even close. I mean, it's good that you have that pass through. It's black and white, but it's not even close to being usable for like doing anything except like emergency kind of picking up your drink or
Well, right, if you haven't seen this, most Rift S owners will have seen it at least one time when you're initially configuring the device. If your device is like mine, you will have seen it several times since I've had to reconfigure my device several times. But basically what it means is what you wind up having to do is what you see is not actually in the exact same relative position as it is in the real world. So you're gonna instinctively pick things up because in your visor it's shifted so that it looks like it, right, but that drink is not actually where that drink, right, it is. Yep. But you're able to see where it is relatively in the visor, and so with your visor down your hand reaches out towards it and makes contact with the drink. So I'm curious to see if they have any additional expanded functionality. And of course, what's always interesting to me is, and one of the more critical things for me is fit and comfort. So it's interesting that, of course, the current Vive is entirely a harness, so there's no hard headpiece mount around the front above the visor. But this has more of is this the combined like half halo, half fabric design?
Yeah,
No,
this
is a
looks full
halo.
Halo. Yeah, full Halo. Yeah, which I know a lot of people praise the PS VR for that. I mean, I have the Acer and the Lenovo. It's okay. I really do prefer the Rift and the Oculus Quest that kind of fabric strap. But we'll see. I mean, I think the other thing that kind of surprised me too is that faceplate is removable, and the top and bottom camera come with it. I don't know if I can zoom in on this. I don't know if I can get this picture any bigger. There we go. The top and bottom camera come off with the faceplate, and I was struggling to see it again. This isn't we don't have a microscope here, but I was struggling to see the connections, the electronic connections for that. Maybe, I mean, at this point, I think it's hard to see, but I thought that was
Yeah,
very unique.
figure it has pogo pins that those
Yeah,
connect land on.
but will they have to be? I mean, if you're going to be taking this off and put it, it has to be consumer ready, right? It
Right.
has to be consumer proof. So
Well,
very interesting
of
design.
and of course the speculation that goes along with this. I think this is the Road to VR article that we're sourcing.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yep.
talks about the speculation that that possibly it's for interchangeable faceplates. So I can't imagine what the difference in functionality would be in a faceplate you would interchange. I was about to say, maybe there could be faceplates with more or fewer cameras, but if they're pogo pins, the pogo pins are on the actual visor themselves, which I guess they're only going to be able to accept a camera one way or another. Maybe there are different modules that could land on those pogo pins, so you could get a faceplate that had slightly different functionality. But again, off the top of my head, I can't imagine exactly what that functionality would be.
Yeah, I know. Initially, they talked about this being a very modular headset, right? And upgradable and whatnot. So part of me wonders, is this the base unit we're looking at? Is this the base unit, or maybe the base unit comes with only the four cameras, and you can upgrade this faceplate to get two more. If you're into games like Beat Saber, you know, that might be important. And most of the games I play, that's not that important, but Beat Saber probably. Although I think it was MRTV, the gentleman over there on that channel, he put Windows Mixed Reality through the ringer on Beat Saber. And the tracking was just phenomenal. So I think we talked about that in a previous episode. So this really caused, I mean, the way they're dribbling this out, if they could have done this earlier in the year, I think it would have been phenomenal. But they get the space all to themselves now. But of course, everybody else, all the other headsets are shipping. But then the next thing that happened, and I think this was yesterday, was this tweet on uh, from HTC Vive. Is this the Vive? HTC Vive Twitter account, and it talking about 90 frames per second. So that's kind of a little hit on the Rift S. Okay, talking about RGB panels with subpixels, right? So the whole OLED, excuse me, you know, uh, subpixel strips, the RGB, whatnot. You have that whole conversation is about blacks not being really black. But then we have the resolution, and a lot of people are going. I mean, this has really divided a lot of people. 2880 by 1700. Just a tiny. I mean, if we think about the Vive Pro, the Samsung Odyssey Plus, and the Index, they're all 2880 by 1600. So this is just a tiny bit more resolution. It's not the 2K by 2K of the HP Reverb. So, man, I was reading Reddit. I was reading all the different comments on Twitter, and some people are like, yes, it's going to be less than an Index. It's going to be portable because I don't have to mount anything on the wall, and it's going to have the best resolution, save the reverb. And other people are like, I can't believe you're releasing 2016 resolutions in 2019. Excuse me. I mean, the Odyssey, the original Samsung Odyssey had that 2880 by 1600 resolution back in when it released in late 2016. Or no, I'm sorry, late 2017. Let me correct that, late 2017. Um, the Samsung launched after the rest of the Windows mixed reality headsets. So I don't know. I want to get your take on this. Um, when you hear this resolution, so this is really the last announced headset. What are your thoughts? Did they nail it? Are they right in line with everybody else, or missed opportunity?
I think they're right in line. I mean, the more and more I see the industry and the fact that nobody's like walking away with some resolution that is a significant threshold shift above and beyond what everyone else is doing. What I feel like this is telling me is there's something, and from a technology perspective, there just hasn't been enough transparency in the industry for us to understand. But to me, what it feels like is there is something akin to like the nanometer process constraint that we're well familiar with on CPUs, where kind of when both AMD and Intel settle out at a manufacturing process, we know that there is a cap or a limit to what can be done at that stage of that fab process. This feels like to me there's something going on with the lenses where they are they're one of two things: either they're maxing out with the types of lenses that they can obtain and produce based on a raw material supply pipeline constraint that's impacting everyone, or it has something to do with the digital processing pipeline from currently available GPUs, where even if they could get the lenses that were necessary, they can't drive them to a higher resolution without taking a performance hit that apparently is at a level that's a trade-off that nobody wants to make right now, or some combination of both. For me, when I see that resolution kind of waver around the same line across the industry, I get less concerned about that. I've kind of just chalked it up that, okay, so we're not going to get a resolution bump until, next generation, which could start next year. 2.0 could arrive next year or somewhere beyond. I don't think these are yet at the point where they're like the equivalent of a console life cycle where we're going to hang out for another, 4 or 5 years at this level. What's more important to me is, as we've unfortunately talked about the last few episodes, is things like driver and application stability. And just, as far as I'm concerned, they can keep the resolution where they are now. What I need them to work on is their software, because that's what's killing me. All the headsets are kind of now hitting a point of parity. It's a matter of how well the software drives the accuracy of the HMD, but also then how that accuracy trues up with the accuracy of the controllers and the stability of the controller drivers.
Yeah, and I'm kind of very disappointed that it wasn't 2K by 2K like the HP Reverb. But look at the HP Reverb. As great as people have talked about it, they're out of stock. Some of the units they sent out, there were issues with the displays. So it's almost they went that one step too far. They got this
Yeah,
great display, but now look what they're suffering.
this feels like a yield problem. This feels like they went out and they tried to source lenses that could, that or either lenses or a component that drives the lenses that allow them to render that resolution, and they're not hitting the yields that they need to. And this is a part of the reason why the supply chain is starved right now, and they're not able to put enough of the things on store shelves to get, or they're deliberately holding back that stock because, as you mentioned, they're dealing with a quality of yield problem in sufficient numbers, and until they get that fixed, they don't want to get too many of these things out in the hands of consumers where they're just going to have to bring them back in to RMA them.
Yeah, and I guess part of that too is I think they were talking a lot about enterprise use for the Reverb, but $600. Most early adopters of VR spent $600. I did. You know, um, so I think they misjudged. Maybe the demand for the unit. Especially around sim gamers. If you're playing Elite Dangerous, Project Cars 2, Assetto Corsa, any of these great sim games, you know, you don't need to hold the thing up here. You're using a HOTOS or a steering wheel. It's irrelevant. You want resolution. And but on the flip side too, look at the problems. Even the guys that tested with their 1080s, they couldn't run without some noticeable frame drops. So maybe, as we talk about over on our Discord, and you guys can, you'll find that in the show notes. So listen to our Discord. Sir Ag and I have been going back and forth about video cards and what they can and can't do. And I was sharing a comparison of the RTX 1070 to the GTX 1080. And while on the 3D Mark or the 3D VR Mark or whatever it's called, the RTX looks like it should be a lot better. in reality, they're neck and neck, like 98 to 95 frames per second. So part of me is wondering if maybe the Oculus was onto something when they said, "Oh, we're only going to do 82 hertz on the Rift S," because they didn't want to bump the minimal spec. And I'm almost wondering if the bottleneck, the reason we're stuck with 2880 by 16 or 1700, is our video cards. They just can't push the frames per second.
Yeah, I mean, definitely any of those things is a possibility. Yeah, particularly when, like I said, when we see it across all the products, it's not like any one product is breaking out in a way from the pack. But yeah, but then, like I said, then what that means is just we're just going to be stuck here, for a while. And like I said, I think unfortunately it impacts guys more so like you, Gray, who got in on the first round, and now you don't have an upgrade path that yields a significant enough delta from the baseline you're coming from to warrant some of the still high costs that we see.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about the Cosmos is the one thing I like about the resolution is that means that it's going to be probably my guess is it's going to be more expensive than the Rift S, but not as expensive as the Valve Index. So I'm guessing a $500 or $600 kit between the headset and the controllers, but we'll see where that lands.
Yeah, they're not 900, but it looks expensive. And HTC, all of their headsets have been pricey. So I don't know, $599 or $699. I'd love to know what our viewers think as well. Let us know in the comments. What is your guess for the price? We'll probably find out between now and the next show. Sorry, this cold is killing me. Speaking of which, I'm leaving on vacation next Wednesday, so I won't be around Wednesday night. I don't know if you want to go solo, Sir Aga, but I'm heading out, so I won't be available next Wednesday night for the show. So just a viewer's note. You know what? This brought up a very interesting, as we walk through this, it kind of brought up a very interesting secondary story, which I want to get your take on. Let me pull it up here. And it was basically that all the Windows mixed reality headsets are out of stock, even in the Microsoft Store. And so what does that mean? Now, I personally I think I see this as a good sign. I mean they've been on sale for 50% off. That's why I have two of them. That's why so many of my friends have picked them up.
When you say a good sign, are you saying in terms of the expectation of a WMR Generation 2 being potentially indicated?
Well, a Generation 2 from most of these vendors. Do they even need Microsoft to be involved anymore? I don't know. I mean, Lenovo designed the Oculus Rift S, right?
Yeah, they did, but in so doing, they put a baton in a different ecosystem, right? That is decoupled from Microsoft in some ways. I think. I mean, I think these manufacturers do need Microsoft involved, right? And I think one of the things that's worrisome as we look at this landscape and how it plays out is Windows mixed reality is a great alternative. It's sort of playing out like the Zune, right? Like the Zune was, if you argue that the Zune was a great media player, but nobody knew about it and there wasn't a strong enough argument being placed behind it to increase uptake. That's kind of what's going on with WMR. Like when you ask the layman, hey, name me two VR headsets, 99% of them are going to name Oculus and Oculus and Vive, right? From the people who know, that they're going to say, hey, did you know Windows, natively supports their own brand of like virtual reality headsets? I would contend that a lot of people like just don't know. And so this to me is kind of like PC gaming, when PC gaming kind of had to be visibly directly supported by Microsoft in order to keep the heat in that market. And so, yeah, without Microsoft like directly supporting it and championing it, Man, I don't know. This could be the next Windows Phone, that we're looking at.
Well, somebody had written on one of the sites, um, VR is dead. Microsoft. This is a sign of Microsoft pulling out, and VR is dead. Now I think this is a sign of either Microsoft not doing a Gen 2 or they're getting ready to release the Gen 2. I think it's either one of those two. But when that guy posted that, I had to reply, and you get drawn in sometimes. I'm like, look, MP3 players did not die because the Zune was canceled. Okay? Steam and digital sales of PC games did not die because Microsoft closed their Games for Windows store, and all the games we bought we can no longer access. I'm still upset about that. Um, when Microsoft decided to pull out of and not release a tablet, and all those high-profile people left the company because they thought it was the wrong decision, didn't hurt iPad sales at all. Um, when Microsoft got out of the digital watch business, right? They had a great smartwatch. I don't know. I think Fitbit just released their best watch yet. I love my Ionic. You know, and on and on and on. It's like just because Microsoft canceled their low-grade Xbox VR headset that they were trying to design to compete with the PSVR, thank goodness they canceled it because they should have just supported these headsets. Um, just because they canceled that didn't hurt PSVR sales. So my point is, it really doesn't matter. I mean, I can tell you one thing right now. I am thankful for Windows Mixed Reality because it proved inside-out tracking works extremely well. And now everybody's doing it themselves. Vive, they didn't need Windows, they didn't need Microsoft and Windows and Mixed Reality. They designed their own inside-out tracking. And Oculus did the same thing with the Quest and with Lenovo's help on the Rift S. So, what does Microsoft bring to the table? Do we need their reference designs? I really don't think we do. I mean, I would love to see a Gen 2 of. I hate to see it. I'm one of those people. It really bothers me when Microsoft walks away. Like if they can't be number one or two, when they walk away and leave all the customers in the lurch, that really bothers me. But you know what? If they just gracefully bow out, all of these companies are ready to do the next thing. HP, when they were talking about the reverb, they said, yeah, the only thing we couldn't do was play with the inside out tracking. They said Microsoft, kind of locks that down because it's been a lot of work's gone into it, and it works good. They need a four camera system though, and if they're not going to design one, Vive and Oculus already have. So everybody, I'm sure other people can as well. Oh, and who knows? Who knows what we'll see from Valve in the next, Index 2. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, what's weird about these things is normally when Microsoft and current day Microsoft, I think, is really good at this. Is current day Microsoft, I think, makes really great decisions about when to walk away from something, from a corporate strategy perspective. Those decisions and choices wind up being things that we don't like, right? Like my favorite phone that I would still have today, if it were supported and viable, would still be Windows Phone. I still prefer that operating system over Android and iOS. I can't get it. For a very long time, I was a diehard tablet PC user, from the 2000s when that form factor first came out. That market never got to be what it needed to be. Microsoft tried to champion ultra mobile PCs. That market didn't be what it needed to be, and Microsoft eventually kind of walked itself back from that. iOS, Apple launches the iPad. All of a sudden, tablets are a new viable thing, and eventually Microsoft comes back to it. I personally think this does signal an end to trying to push native Windows /PC virtual reality implementations and product availability market. I think it is a read from Microsoft on where the market is going. Like I mentioned last episode, before anybody else figured it out, they said there's no point in having this war over HD, DVD, and Blu-ray. Neither of these formats are going to be the preeminent format when it comes to movies. We're not going to fight that fight. Same thing with Xbox. They kind of started to pivot before, 2 years before next gen, away from the conversation of units sold and install base, feeling that the next fight is really going to be about how many concurrent players do you have on your platform and what types of services do you provide. My read on this on where they're pivoting away from VR is that the only real purpose in these Windows PC manufacturer headsets being available on market were to be sold alongside similar to Windows PCs, right? So the allure was you go and you buy the Acer, gaming desktop, the low end, like just under $1,000 box, and you buy this relatively inexpensive Windows mixed reality headset to go along with it. Now all of a sudden you are part of the virtual reality community at a $1,200 price point instead of a $1,700 and above price point. From somebody who's built a $1,500 PC, and then went out and bought a Rift or a Vive. And I know I said like that; those numbers don't add up. So probably more than 17, 18. This is probably your stock VR customer is probably a $2,000 customer, right? They probably buy or build a $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 PC and then go buy a $400 headset. Microsoft, I think, was trying to move that battle line to bring in customers at a lower price point.
And they did. I think they did.
They did. I don't think that they saw the uptake with the numbers that they felt would make this a continuing going concern. I think they're seeing that the conversation is still predominantly around Rift and Vive. And I think they decided, hey, this is not going to be a big thing. On top of that, the implementation, as I've talked about, is it's this Windows mixed reality app with Steam, and it isn't as elegant as Rift, as the Rift app with Steam VR and the Vive app with Steam VR. And I guess maybe they just decided it was too many resources to try and muscle this around. Could also be the PC manufacturers were like, this is not a native product for us to be producing, and for us to like put these things out requires a significant amount of effort if it's not going to be like our specialty. So I don't think VR is dead, but I think they're kind of ceding this territory predominantly to Oculus and HTC.
Yeah. I think. I'll say it. I would love to see a Gen 2 Windows mixed reality. I really like what they did with Gen 1. The horsepower required of the PCs was lower. Inside out tracking was, if you're trying to play with three people in the same space, it was, and the headsets, the big discounts. I know they really wanted to sell these at $399, but at $199, I just knew a bunch of people picked them up, and we've had a lot of fun. We played a lot with them. So I'm glad it happened. I hope there's a Gen 2. I hope they stay in. Like I said, I hate it when Microsoft abandons something. But I think we're okay if they do, because Samsung has several. Apparently, Samsung has some new models on the way. So I think HP already has one. Samsung has one, and Lenovo designed the Rift S for Oculus. So
the other thing that's curious to me is, as I think about it, is while Microsoft can appear very unfocused, they eventually get to a point where they are focused. And I wonder, I can definitely feel, I can see this conversation saying, hey, our core gaming business model is now wrapped around Xbox Game Pass and Game Pass for PC. Are these VR people Game Pass people? I mean, they might be concurrently, but I don't see a business model around getting those virtual reality games into Game Pass, and that might also be a reason. Like, hey, man, if it's not Game Pass, then like it's not a money play. We need to let it go.
yeah, very good point. Well, let's move on to this next story. Let me see if I can bring it up here on the screen. This is your story, and when I saw this, I'm like, I was like, just last week, I'm like, I'm not going to buy another Xbox. My new console is my Quest. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't have bought the Xbox One X. I just would have waited for the Quest. And then you brought this story up. So let's talk about this. What were your thoughts when you read through this?
I'm I'm not convinced. Were kind of my thoughts. And this is a good news story. The basic parameters behind it is that um, in the first few weeks of the market, that uh, Oculus saw sales of about $5 million in content coming off the market, and that's the good news story. Obviously led by games like Beat Saber and Super Hot and Robo Recall. This story sourced also from VR Scout. And then also with your heavy hitters like Vader Immortal, Wander, and the virtual desktop, which we talked about last week. Speculation that those numbers are indicative that every owner of the Quest bought two VR titles with a aggregate value averaging out at about $50 per purchase. Microsoft is very bullish on this. Their intention is to, go at this pretty hard. And yeah, if I said Microsoft, I apologize. Is to go at this pretty hard and continue pumping, content into the Oculus store for people to purchase. But my lack of confidence in this, and I don't. I mean, $5 million of sales in the first few weeks is good. What I couple this to though is my VR experience and how I see myself as a VR gamer, and just not walking away with a ton of confidence that this is, at the end of the day, and I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion, the Quest experience doesn't scale to the degree of fidelity that a VR experience coupled with a big burly PC and a big GPU driving it can scale to. And that's the type of game experience I need. So, I mean, it's great data, and it's indicative that every Quest owner has bought two games. I'm a Rift S owner, and I have yet to be compelled to go and spend money in the Rift store. So because right now that ecosystem, the VR ecosystem in general, has a degree of fragility that I'm not personally willing to go all in. I know you've hit the point where you feel like it's your next console. For me, it's not, just because it doesn't offer the same breadth, depth, and volume of content that's available on traditional gaming consoles and PCs, and that's what I'm looking for and what I need.
Yeah, and I totally hear that, and I understand where you're coming from. I don't have a Nintendo Switch, okay? I know the Nintendo Switch is a phenomenal mobile, um, you know, video game system. It is, right? And but there's the games that are on that. Like if I'm gonna play, you name any big game. If I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna play it on my couch on my Xbox One X. I'm not gonna play it on the Switch. But if you're somebody who's a commuter, you get a lot of time where you're stuck on the train or on the bus. The Switch is awesome because you can play all your AAA games, most of your AAA games, on your Switch when you're not at home, right? And so for me, that's what the Quest is. The Quest is my mobile VR system. I can take it like if you're a businessman, you're traveling, you're on a plane, you're now you don't have to even worry about people looking at what you're looking at your laptop. You just put your visors on. They can play with the windows. They can do all these things, and you're just blocked out from them, right? If you're in a hotel, if you're uh, for me, I go camping, and it's great. My wife goes to take a nap. I can put the Quest on. I can play, Vader Immortal, and these other games. And some of the games are sitting, and some are standing. But to me, that's what it is. And the reason I'm focusing on the crossbuy now, first of all, when I got the Quest, I got like 4 games for free because I had already owned them in the Oculus store. So I got them for free. Now there were several games I bought on Steam. I still prefer to buy my games on Steam because they work on all my heads or all my PC headsets, right? But there were sales and different promotions where you get some free games, and I picked those up. And if I buy a game on the Quest and I really like it, and I'm like, man, I would love to see Vader Immortal on the PC. Well, good news. It's free for Rift owners. So I get to enjoy it, like the Nintendo Switch guy. And if I really want to do it high res, now I have it free on the Rift on the PC. So there's definitely um, a subset of people, and I played Robo Recall this week on it. And is it identical to the PC? No. Like like the textures on the walls and on the streets, they're a lot lower, right? Like everything's about the same, all the geometry's the same, but the gameplay's the same, but it's not as graphically rich. Still fun, still super fun, still super fun. But but that's a game that you can now enjoy for $400, where before you needed a $400 headset, well, $500 headset maybe, and then $1,000 PC.
Right. Yeah.
So now you're getting the same, well, nearly the same experience, almost the same. When you look at a game that goes from like the PS4 and Xbox to the Nintendo Switch, it's almost kind of like the same downgrade, but still it's a fun game. If the core pieces of the game are there, it's still going to be fun.
Yeah, and I want to clarify. So none of this is for me to say like the Quest isn't a good device, right, or is a bad product. This is a well targeted product. There's a place in the market for this. There's a demographic of gamer who this hits at their core. I guess my thing is, and maybe it's a little unfair in how I've articulated is, what I keep saying about Stadia is everybody's having this conversation about Stadia as if it needs to be a replacement for something, and I'm like, I don't think right off the bat it's going to be a replacement for something. It's going to be a service that big gamers run alongside a console and or a gaming PC. It's a diversification play, right? I know for me it is, right? I make sure that I have stuff across multiple platforms, partially due to that 2010 Xbox experience where I got my fourth Red Ring of Death and I was done, right? And I gave up a lot of games and content that I'd invested in the Xbox ecosystem, but I was okay because I also had PC games and PlayStation games. So I think this is just by the same token, sometimes maybe what I say gets misconstrued. I say you're saying for you, it is kind of a console replacement. Whereas my negative commentary about it also isn't trying to evaluate it as a replacement, right? And maybe overall that's more so what I'm saying. But it doesn't need to be, right? People can still have their consoles, and this can be a $400 adjunct that allows them to get into the VR market, still at a lower price point than, as you mentioned, $1,000 PC with a $500 headset. It is a VR entry market play. Yet again, another potential reason why Microsoft started to walk away, because we've got $200 headsets. You still need to have like an $800 PC to play it. And if somebody goes, okay, I want to get into the entry market end of VR, I could spend, $1,000 or I can spend $400. And so Microsoft may have just felt like the bottom end of the VR market had moved down to the standalone headsets, which we would expect. While today we just have the Quest, we would expect that more vendors will kind of follow suit. So it's a good play, and it's a good experiential device to have that standalone VR experience.
Yeah, and I should probably clarify. I mean, since one thing I realized, I think we talked about this last night on E2KG. I realized that over the last year I've really moved into just playing VR games. The only one I don't do in VR is Elite Dangerous, because we got a lot of people who join us in the chat when we're playing Elite Dangerous. So I use the 3-screen setup, the ultra widescreen setup. But my focus is almost entirely VR now, because that's it. To me, it's like the next new cool thing, and I'm drawn to it because I love being able to actually move in the game. You know, Having said that, if I think about it, my PC has probably replaced my Xbox. You know what I'm saying? And the Quest is my mobile console. And for a lot of Xbox gamers, people who love it, and I have every Xbox that was ever made. Okay, I got them all, every model. Um, I'm a huge Xbox fan, but if you have an Xbox and you don't have a PC and you want to do VR, now you don't have to go get a PS4 and a PSVR. You can just buy a Quest. So, no, good, very good points there. Absolutely, very good points.
But just to tie up this article, good sales indication, good uptake on a relatively new device, probably arguably without question the hottest VR device that has launched so far in 2019. Good uptake, good install base. I would like to see those numbers, right? So we know that we think that there are roughly 4 million PlayStation VR headsets out there. I would like to get around to hearing a number of roughly how many Quest headsets they believe that have been sold.
Yeah, it's going to the days where everybody reports their numbers unless they think they're the number one leader in the world, which kind of stinks, but it is what it is. The next story we had, I'm actually very excited about this. Now, Oculus has really spent a lot of money developing some great first-party games, and kudos to them because they've just been really great quality. I have Lone Echo. I've never finished it, but I'll tell you what, you really feel like you are free to move around the space station, um, almost at the level of a drift, which is to me is the doesn't have motion controls, but Adrift is just phenomenal. Um, in any case, but this is one of the games that they've been talking about. Let me bring it up here. It's like the James Bond of VR. Okay, it's called Defector, and let me see if I can pull it up here. Um, and it's going to come out in July for 1999. Now, you don't often see a AAA title come out for 1999. I mean, Beat Saber, right, is now $30. It's $30 on the Quest. I'm not buying it again. It was $20 on Steam. I'll do all my Beat Sabering over on Steam. But this, which has I'm sure a budget about 100 times bigger than Beat Saber, 1999. I think that's phenomenal. This is gonna be a day one purchase for me. I look forward to reviewing it. If this was $30 or $40, I wouldn't buy it. But at 1999, that's that bargain bin. This is like I don't know. It seems like such a great deal for such a high quality game. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to Stormland, which or Stormlands, which has two-player co-op, I believe, which looks really good, and Battlewake 2, which keeps coming up in the press. But I wanted to talk about that. Do you have any? You're a new Rift S owner. Do you have any Oculus exclusives on your list?
No, just because again, I on E2KG like I mean my first priority is that whatever I buy, I'd be able to play, preferably without in VR, right? I'm targeting things that are VR mode, so I just haven't had my center of gravity move sufficiently to where I would actually go into the Rift store and specifically grab something that was a Rift exclusive.
Oh, that makes sense. No, I hear you. Let's see. What do we got next here? Let me go back to full screen. Uh, Now, this is a story I put in here, and I'm very excited about this. I don't know if you've seen much of the mixed reality where people use a camera to capture themselves. A lot of people use an old Kinects, and then they use this software called Live to actually take a picture from behind them so it looks like they're actually in the world. So they're actually in I don't know, Minecraft or, you know, Orbis or any Beat Saber, right? So it shows their body inside the game. And that's great. I tried to get it to work. I had some issues. I just don't have the time like I used to. But I was very close to having it working. But I'm an old guy. I'm a big, chubby old guy. So I'm like nobody wants to look at me. But the people that live have thought about people like me who maybe we're not teenagers anymore. And so in the version 1.0 version of Live that's coming out, they're adding official avatar support. So, and you won't need a Connect or depth sensing camera anymore. You won't need anything. You get the Live software, and now it'll put you in the game. So you can choose like a third person over the shoulder view, and it'll be an avatar. Now, I checked out the avatars. There's not many good avatars, but let's see if I can play this without any sound. This is really cool. I suggest the folks check this out. I mean, look at that. Doesn't that look cool? I mean, you're standing in Super, you're standing in Beat Saber, you're standing in any of these games, and um, I am so looking forward to doing this. They need to have some cool guy avatars. Most of the avatars in there are ladies, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those are great for the ladies, but I need a guy avatar, like a Neo or maybe a Liam Neeson avatar, you know. But I just think this is so cool because I think it would be more interesting instead of watching the first person perspective. And one of the problems I have with the first person perspective is if you're in an intense firefight, right? You're doing this. And that's not easy to watch, you know? So I really think this is going to be cool. I'm excited about this coming out. I don't know if they're I think early access was free. At least I didn't have to pay anything for it. So, I mean, if this is a nominal price, maybe $10, I'll pick it up. And I think it would be cooler, when we're playing our dungeon crawls or whatever, to have that over the shoulder view instead of the first person view. Um, but in any case, that was my article I want to brought up. Um, this cold is killing me. What's next? Oh, that's it, and that's it. So, did I miss any of your stories? I think I'm just going through our list here.
Yep, nope, I think you got them all.
So the only thing else I have on top of that was we played Battlezone tonight. Now, and I was actually thinking of putting a video together on this. The Steam sale started on the 25th. There are a ton of great games on sale. As a matter of fact, almost every game you see us play, I think every game we've played on the Gamers Show, going back 2 years, is on sale. Battlezone, we had Ocelot join us tonight, $8 and change. It was so much fun. So you'll be seeing that video. That usually comes out um, before this one, but usually within a day of each other. And we just had a blast. We've played it 3 or 4 times in the past. We're actually starting to get good at it. But it's like Battlezone combined with Tron. It kind of like feels like the original Tron when you're playing it. But it's just a fun game. It's a sitting game, so very low potential for getting sick, motion sickness. And of course, you don't need a big play space because it's a sitting game. It does play with the controller though. You need a controller like an Xbox controller or something, which is not a problem. But every game, Carnage Chronicles, Furious Seas, Elite Dangerous, Project Cars 2, No Man's Sky, the list goes on. Star Trek Bridge Crew, the list goes on and on and on. They're all on sale. So if you've been looking, these are probably going to be the best prices we have until the holidays. Typically, the fall sale isn't as good as the winter sale and the summer sale. So I think it ends July 9th. Thank you for not making it end on July 4th, like on what's July 9th? I was giving them a hard time in years past because they would end it like you would have your July 4th picnic, and that's when they would end it, like right in the middle, like lunchtime on that Sunday, the July 4th weekend. So the 9th is a Tuesday. So thank you very much to the good folks over at Valve for moving it out and not making it the Sunday of July 4th at lunchtime. But with that, did you see anything that caught your eye during the Steam sale? Have you perused it at all?
I've looked at the email that landed in my, letting me know that like basically everything that I have on my wish list is on sale. I'm like, great, guys. It's not really information I can make a decision off of. So, no, nothing's caught my eye that would make me jump. I will probably go in and do some type of sort or filter and maybe look at what are the top 2 games that come up. But yeah, nothing. I mean, I did note a couple VR titles that were on sale that I've just seen kind of around the store, but other than that, no.
Well, That's you know, if our viewers let us know what you're picking up or what you're playing, we love to hear from you. But I think that's the end of tonight's show. I don't think we have anything else. So, Sir Aga, any final words? Final thoughts?
No, man, looking forward to the rest of the year. A lot of we covered in the E3 discussions will be arriving.
Well, let me thank you again for letting me guest host on your show last night. And congratulations to you, Osiris, and DB on your 100th show. The episode that we're talking about will be the first link in the description of this show, so you can check it out. And these guys, if you love listening to just adults talk about games and what they like and what they don't like, all games, consoles, PCs, the whole nine yards, you got to check this show out because I think I've done over the years, we've probably done over 100 shows together, going all the way back to CAGcast and Band of Gamers. And so it's a great show. Check it out. The link will be right below the first link in this description. But with that, I'm not here next week. My apologies. July 4th on Thursday, so we're heading out Wednesday night. But I will be back. I will be on this Sunday. I'll be on next Sunday. And I just want to wish everybody a great week, the rest of the week. And until next time, my friends, peace.